Welcome to Play Pause Turn. In this podcast, we discussed all things to do with TV, films, games and literature. We give our thoughts on the media we've been enjoying, old or new, and comment on anything topical. Our hosts today are myself, John, and I'm joined by Bobby, Amy and Alex. And we've got our usual intro question. So, hello Amy.
Hi.
Now, we are going to be looking at John Wick for this episode. And so our intro question, our icebreaker question is this. Amy, I hope you thought long and hard about this. If you were a specialised assassin, what would be your area of expertise?
I think distraction. I think that would be my number one go-to because I'm really good at just talking endlessly about complete rubbish and being friendly towards people and randomly producing magic tricks and doing really stupid things that, if I was trying to kill someone, if anything, it'll just bemuse them and confuse them until I can just shoot them in the stomach and the face. It'll be fine.
So you'd befuddle them until you could then just kill them?
Yes. I'd be the befuddler. It's not quite as good as the Riddler, but yeah, the befuddler.
Hello. My name is Amy Shadowheart, and I'm a befuddler. There you go.
That's it, done.
Okay, Alex, how about you? If you were an assassin, a specialised assassin, working for the Continental, what would be your area of expertise?
Yeah, so what I would do is I would hide in really mundane places and wait for people to come along. So things like, waiting behind the curtains for when you have to close the curtains, and then you're right there, so I get you. Or maybe I just wait in the loo because you've got to go to the loo sooner or later, although I've never seen John Wick actually go to the loo. But sooner or later he needs to go to the loo, and when he does, I'll be there waiting for him. So things like that.
Okay, so a bit like the Assassin's Creed Brotherhood multiplayer where you had to kind of blend in with the crowd until
totally, yeah, that's my kind of thing.
Okay. How about you, Bobby? If you were a specialised assassin, what would be your area of expertise?
So Alex seems to have done a marathon of the John Wick 3, 2, 1 films and just been sitting there the entire time thinking of ways to kill John Wick, basically. That's how I interpreted the answer to his question. And so Alex, actually, it would be a mashup of John Wick and Scooby-Doo.
Right.
Hiding in nefarious places, thinking up plots and whatever. Anyway, sorry. Over to me. I would be the stealthy type that creeps up behind people and then stabs them in the back.
Ooh.
Because I'm not the sort of person that does that normally as a friend. I'm a very good friend, but I just feel as an assassin I could be backstabby.
I love the immediate backtrack.
But not that type of stabbing.
The immediate backtrack of, I don't do that in real life. I'm a nice person. Honest.
I mean,
Yeah, I don't really. I haven't just murdered my entire household because trying to get this podcast started has been a bloody nightmare.
See, these questions are meant to kind of highlight a little bit more about the presenters, and I think there's quite a lot of detail here tonight. I'm a big fan of sniping in video games, and I like to. Oh, hello. And I like to take my time over a kill and get in the right position and check the wind speed and the Solaris effects and all the rest. So I would be a sniper. I'm not like Bobby. I'm not a CQC man myself. I couldn't envisage myself going up close and careful with a kill. So yeah, I'd be your backup guy. Well, Bobby, if you didn't take him out, I could shoot him for you.
Okay, so sorry, I have a question. What the hell is CQC?
Close quarters combat.
Ooh.
Ah, okay. I thought it was like quo pro quo or something, and like it just got messed up. Close quarters combat. Okay, I like that. Yeah, no, I like being quite intimate. I don't like all this kind of shooting from a distance nonsense. It's cowardly.
Well,
that's probably why I get killed in Far Cry quite a lot.
Yeah, there's one person who is big on close quarters combat, although he does also use a gun, and that is John Wick. And obviously he's the main topic of our conversation tonight. Now, how has this happened? I think, Bobby, I think you suggested that Alex watch the films. So Alex and Amy.
So at some point in a Slack conversation, it came out that Alex had not seen John Wick, and my jaw dropped multiple times. And then I said, Alex, you must watch John Wick. And I basically badgered the poor guy about it. And then he and Amy have obviously done this John Wick marathon over the last couple of days, and they've watched all 3 movies. I haven't watched all 3 again, but there we go. anyway, that's how it all came about. And I said we should do a John Wick appreciation episode.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Because you could talk about the
it's a very
suits
good idea.
and we could talk about the fighting.
Yeah,
And everything else, yeah.
It is shocking, considering what we talk about generally, that you haven't seen this film, and I'm really glad you have. And we're going to, obviously, we're not going to review it as such, but it would be nice before we start digging down into the background of the film and the characters. What did you actually think of the films, Amy and Alex?
I really enjoyed the first one. Second one, it suffered from the same thing as most in-betweeny films. It was a bit repetitive. And then I liked the twist that they gave in the third one, but I really enjoyed it.
How about you, Alex?
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I thought the pacing was pretty good as well. And I think, it was good to see a good Keanu Reeves film, because it's been a while. So, it was nice to see that. I think the last time I saw a good one from him was probably Speed.
It's been a long time since John and Mnemonic as well, really, hasn't it, to be fair?
Yeah, true. Yeah, we can
That classic.
talk through a Keanu Reeves appreciation episode another time, maybe, but it would be a short
I'm glad you enjoyed
one.
them. I think Bobby mentioned another film he's seen, which is Nobody. Is that right, Bobby? Have you seen that yet?
Yeah, Nobody, which is written, directed by the guys responsible for John Wick, Chad Stahelski or whatever his name is. And it's awesome, with Bob Odenkirk from Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. It's fantastic.
With that coming out recently, and also the full film due to come out, I think this year it's meant to be out.
It's May next year. It's been moved back.
But has it been pushed back, is it?
Yeah.
2022, okay. I think, with both these films upcoming and existing, and it's a good subject to talk about. There is a lot of there's a wealth of material around the John Wick character. John Wick himself, I think, now initially was a comic before the films, created by Derek Kolstad, I think. Although you might have to just confirm that for me. It might be the way around. But there's graphic novels, there's films, there's video games. So we're going to talk about some of these things this episode. Have you any of you had a chance to actually read the graphic novel?
No, sadly not.
No.
So I think when Wick 3 came out, quite often when films come out on in the cinema that week, Comixology, who I use quite a lot for reading my comics on my iPad, they do sales for these sort of materials, these IPs. And I bought the volume 1 of the John Wick comic, which is written by Greg Pak and has art by Giovanni Valletta and Matt Gaudio. And they sort of shared the artwork over the 5 episodes of the 5 comics. It's very, very good, and it gives you. There's history there. Like the comic implies that John Wick has met Charon, who's the chap who looks after the Continental. But it's very much introduces the rules of the Continental and the rules of the marks and the currency. But it also introduces this kind of idea of be careful, John. Don't let anything get too personal. If you work for the Continental, it's business is business, and don't take anything personally. And it's a really interesting comic because it does go into John Wick's youth as a child and what sort of started his role in life as this killer, this assassin with a heart. And it talks about a couple of his sort of early nemeses that he encounters as a child, as a 10-year-old. So it's really worth a read. The artwork's lovely. There's some really clever little sort of arty panels alongside the usual action in the comic, and the artists and the writer have very much captured that kind of bam bam bam, the movement of John Wick as he's doing all this CQC with the guns and throwing guns at people. So it's a really good read. It's a really fascinating read, and it's like watching another one of his films, which is exactly what you want if you're a John Wick fan. So I do recommend it. And you can get it in pay, on hardback as well as electronic, and some lovely variant covers for it as well, which includes photographs in the film, but also hand-drawn stuff. Which, if I get a chance to share with you, they're really good. Stuff you can put on your walls, which is really good. There is obviously, before we go into the films, which is going to be the meat of today, there is also a game which was again released. It coincided around the same time as John Wick 3. It was made by the people who made the film, called up developers, and one of the developers who put it together was a chap called Mike Bithell, who I'm a big fan of. He's made games like Thomas Was Alone and Volume, among other things. And it's available on the Switch and on Steam, on PC, as far as I know. And do you know the XCOM games?
Yeah, I've had them. I used to play them.
So the XCOM games is a kind of a tactical game. The XCOM games is sort of a Cold War alien invasion, and you have to plan your infiltration and attacks, and it's all turn-based. So it's a bit like chess. You plan your steps, bearing in mind what the opposition is going to do, and then you press play, and the whole thing plays out in front of you. And if you time everything right, you win. You get through the level. Well, John Wick does that, in that you have movement spots like sort of grids on your levels, and it's taking you through nightclubs and bars and things, and you can highlight enemies and decide what to do with them. Throw your gun at them, or go up behind them like Bobby would want to do and stab them in the back, or you can just shoot them dead. But then you have limits on your ammo. If they drop a gun, you can pick up their gun and use it, which John Wick does. It's very in keeping with the style of the film, and the story is brilliant. It involves it's called John Wick Hex. Hex is the kind of the mastermind behind all the crime going on, and you have all the characters from the film as well. It doesn't really interfere with the plot very much of the film, which is good. It's just one of his missions. But what's really nice about it is, as you run through each level, when you've planned your route and all your kills and got through to the end, it then replays the whole level like a cinematic from the film, with all the angles changing, like in the film, showing you taking these guys out, like one of these action scenes from the film. It's very, very satisfying and worth if you're a big fan of John Wick, playing it. I don't think if you're not a John Wick fan, it will be your thing. The gameplay is great, but this is what you're going to get, and it does get a bit more complicated later on. But it's very well put together, and it's a good wish fulfiller if you're a John Wick fan. Don't know if you're tempted. You can get on the Switch version I use, and it's quite good fun because you can use a touchscreen as well.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay, so let's talk about the films. We're not going to go through them in any order, but we are going to talk about what we liked. So, in terms of the actual standout scenes from the film, what do people enjoy, Amy?
I like maybe not so much one singular standout scene, but how they all add up together. Just the unravelling and the revealing that there's this entire underworld based up of assassins, and all these little rules that follow, and you keep discovering all these little things and thinking, oh, that's cool. Oh, so that's going on like normal. Oh, so that could be happening right now. That could be here, and that could be in Milton Keynes for all we know. And I love how that. It's not like they're introducing something brand new. They're saying this has been like this forever, and you had no idea. And I love that.
This history, you mean?
All the history, all of the different factions that come together, the way that everything works, the rules that are stuck to, and the very gentlemanly thing of, well, we were about to kill each other, but now that we're suddenly in a hotel, why don't we have a drink? Let me buy you a drink. And it's suddenly really civil, and I think that's such a wonderful way of playing it.
No business in the Continental. It's all pleasure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How about you, Alex?
Trying to pick an individual scene's quite difficult because there's lots of them that are really good, but the thing is it doesn't stop. So what happens is you runs into another one. I think one of my favourite scenes was the scene from the third one. Up in the glass. In
the museum storage area.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called, but I think they called it the administration office or something like that. But it's basically the museumy bit and has loads of things to see, but it's all glass. And they had such success with the mirror scene previously in number 2.
You mean isn't that Winston's office?
Yeah, well, I think it is, but it's not the kind of office he'd ever use. So yeah. I think they just plugged it in because everyone loved the mirror scenes in number 2. So we should definitely do more of that. But it's just like very more uber modern, uber over the top. And then what's really nice about it is obviously, the glass, and that plays a part of the fight scene.
Is it Zero, the Asian sort of assassin that he's fighting?
Yeah, I think so. I'm just going to have a... Yeah. But, I think Zero is the... Zero is the main person. But what was nice about the scene is that he hovers around, and then he gets some of his henchmen to come along and to do some more fights with him. And the funniest bit of that was when the two assassins that are trying to beat him sort of fangirl him basically and go, it's an honour to work with you. Oh, it's really good. And then there's this sort of awkward moment where John's like, yes, and then it's like, right, let's go on with it. But it was just, I love that kind of professional courtesy that they put in.
Well, there's a big theme about honour in these films, and so it's about honour, and the gold coins are linked to honour as well. We'll talk about that later on. But there's some great scenes in. We'll talk about set design and cinematography later on. But Bobby, how about you? Any favourite outstanding scenes from the film that you can remember?
I mean, John Wick, when the film was first announced, like however many years ago it was now, I know it was delayed in the UK, so I had to that's how originally I got a dodgy iTunes account, so that I could access it in America, because I was just so looking forward to it. And I grew up on a diet of I am going to answer your question,
That's
but
all right.
I've been missing for a few weeks, and I'll get around to the point. I'll do it in my long fashioned way. And I grew up on a diet of my dad used to go to a video store when it was all VHS, and I would ask for the same things every time. Bring me Bruce Lee movies, of which there were only about 3 or 4, and bring me Jackie Chan movies, and that's all I wanted. And I was just fascinated by the fight choreography, and just it was like a ballet. It was just so awesome, those films, the way that they were made in terms of from a fighting perspective. And we'd gone a few years without having that sort of thing in cinema. I think the last time was the Bourne trilogy, and before that, even, or maybe around the same time, I don't know. I think it was around 2002, Equilibrium with Chiwetel Ejiofor and Christian Bale, where they invented Gun Carter for that actual film. That style of fighter. If you've not seen Equilibrium, it's a brilliant science fiction film. I'm gonna end up going down a rabbit hole. But Equilibrium, if you've not seen it, you're all looking at me really blank.
No, I've seen it. It was released about the same time as The Matrix, and everyone thought it was copying The Matrix, but actually it was filmed before The Matrix, and this whole gung fu.
It was made before.
It was very big then. No, it's a great film. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, exactly. And then obviously The Matrix is another great example as well, but we've gone a few years without any of this, so I was so excited for John Wick. So I love the whole of the first movie. Standout scenes for me were actually in the beginning and middle of the third movie. So the opening fight with all the knives and stuff. I remember being in the cinema and like literally just punching the air, and kept turning around to Carolina, and I was like, oh, that must have hurt. Oh, that was so cool. And then the fight scene on the motorbikes when they're chasing after him, that was so well done. Although it did remind me of a similar fight scene in a South Korean movie.
The Villainess.
Yes.
Great film.
Yes.
And the director of John Wick 3 was inspired by The Villainess, so that's why there's a link.
There we go. I mean, the final fight scene in John Wick 3... I was exhausted by that point. I think it went on too long, but overall it's become what do you call it? Guilty pleasure viewing John Wick. Yeah. So when any of the films are on TV, even if I catch them like halfway through or 10 minutes from the end, I'll leave the channel there. Plus we love Keanu, so
Keanu. I'm with you. I was a big fan of the horse chase motorbike scene. And I like the fact that they kind of threw away the cars and got Wick on a horse. I think it became a kind of a iconic scene in the film. But I do like his close quarters fighting. I think what's again one standout scene for me, I think, was in 3, which was in this what I thought Alex was talking about earlier on, which was in this storage room where they had these wooden boxes filled with weapons.
Oh, right.
And he fights 2 or 3 guys, but it's a lot of axes and heads and things. A really brutal scene. But I think what's special about John Wick's fighting style is it's not superpowered. I mean, he does strike me as being someone with superpowers, the way he survives his films. But, he's not perfect. He gets shot and he gets hit and hurt. He's not like Captain America in that respect. And I respect the fact that they are showing someone who's a very good fighter but can get hurt and just gets up and keeps fighting. You were saying that the end of the 3 was quite long. Well, I think by the time we've reached John Wick 3, it's no longer a film, it's a video game. When you look at the structure of the film, and by the end of the film, when they're holed up in Winston's armory with old Peter Serafinowicz, his sort of gun butler, brilliant little cameo from him there. It's almost like the boss battle at the end because they've got all the armor on and they can't be shot properly. They have to have like high velocity rounds. So yes, this is why I like it so much. Is because it's this video game style. It definitely appeals to a certain demographic. But I also I think it was 2 where he's working his way through sort of the old, it looks like sort of Hispanic or Italian mansion up to the bedroom of one of his marks.
Yeah.
And I just loved tactically he was hiding guns and working his way through and working out, I'm going to need this later on, which again you'd see in games, but it shows a bit more of the character of John Wick, his intelligence, his understanding of the world he's in. And I love the fact that when he came back through those catacombs, he just one-man army completely fought his way out expertly. And it's those kind of landmark battle scenes that I really enjoy. Yes, you've got the dog being shot and everything else, and John Wick getting upset by the personal side of things. But again, we shouldn't like him, should we? Really, he's an assassin. He does a lot of bad things, but we totally sympathise with him, and he's a very, very good character in that respect. And I think that's why you're so with him in all these scenes. You're on side with him so much. That's why I like these films so much.
You're with him from the very beginning. I mean,
yeah.
From a get-go, the setup is the poor guy's lost his wife.
Yeah.
He's a widower living on his own. A puppy gets sent to him, which is a present from his dead wife.
Yeah.
And then within 2 minutes, over his Mustang, some Russian gangsters come and kill his puppy. And so how can you not be with him from that set?
No, it's true.
They don't set up anything. There's nothing else set up for you to ever be against him. Oh, that poor dog! Seriously. Apparently, the actor that actually had to kill that dog.
I mean, Alfie Allen.
He would give it loads of cuddles. Yeah. No, it wasn't Alfie Allen. It was one of the other guys. Alfie Allen doesn't do his own dirty work. No. But apparently, between takes, he would really give that dog a lot of hugs and kisses and stuff because he just felt so bad about what he was being made to do. No puppies were actually harmed in the filming of John Wick, by the way.
Oh, that's good.
But the moment that happened, okay. I was like, well, I mean, they have to die. I think what I said to Alex was, They have to die with fire. They must be burned, I think is what I said. I was very cross.
The puppy dies and Amy Hansford turns into Cersei from Game of Thrones.
Well, a few Greyjoys there.
That's a bit scary. There's some good character in that first film. I think the first film is very, very strong. A lot of people say it's the best of the 3. I like them as a continuum, as all 3 films. But there are some strong characters in there. And Alfie Allen's character is this sort of young gangster son. He's the son of, is it Vigo's? I can't remember. He's a T. We'll have to look it up on IMDb at some point. But there's some good characters in that film. And so, could you tell me, Amy, which characters really you were taken with in these films? Obviously, John Wick. That's a given, isn't it? Obviously.
Yeah.
But apart from John Wick,
I love Winston, but then I love Ian McShane. I'm not I will deliberately go and see films that he's in kind of person, but in my eyes, there's him and one other person who they can do no wrong. Him and Bernard Cribbins. They can do absolutely no wrong in my book, and I loved seeing him in this. As soon as he popped up, that made me day. Made up for the dog.
Well, Bernard Cribbins.
No. Ian McShane.
He took a turn, didn't he?
He was one of the assassins at the back.
Exactly. He's barman, perhaps.
But as soon as Ian McShane turned up, I'm like, oh.
Alex, do you have For a special anniversary sexy time or whatever, do you have a Bernard Cribbins outfit that Amy makes you put on?
I've got one of those balaclava masks with his face printed on it.
It's really nice.
And that's as far as we're going to talk about that.
Well?
But,
Bernard Cribbins is the only person I've ever paid to have a photograph with. Ever. Anyway, that's Bernard Cribbins. Ian McShane. Great.
My internet stuttered, and all I heard was Bernard Cribbins is the only person I've ever paid for. And then it stuttered.
That's the essence of it, really. So yeah, but Ian McShane's great, and I love the character of Winston. I love how he brings a sense of everything is fine, everything is calm, but also I'm going to be slightly cheeky and do it my own way and give you a bit of a nod and a wink and almost be a somewhat father figure. And I think he's great all the way through.
How about you, Alex?
So for me, it's Charon. So
played by Lance Reddick.
Yeah, I love his because there's so much depth to his character that he doesn't have to say because he's the receptionist. But then it's all alluded to, so I love that. And of course, he looks after the dog. And then when it gets to the third one, you see actually, he's one of the ones protecting the hotel and that kind of thing. So it's kind of and then you're like, yeah, come on, I want to see more of him. And
if you if you read the comic, Alex, right at the beginning of the comic, the way that Wick meets him properly for the first time is he's in a building opposite Lance Reddick, who is about to be assassinated by a group of people.
Oh.
And John Wick grabs a cushion and throws himself through two windows across the gap of the buildings to basically take out these guys about to kill him. And so it's you don't know this in the films, but Charon has a special spot for John Wick for saving his life at the beginning of their meeting. So it's a nice little touch. I don't know if that's been retconned in the comics, but
maybe.
Yeah, he's a good character.
Yeah,
he's brilliant in Fringe as well. If you've seen the Fringe series.
Oh yeah, no, we've seen. We enjoy Fringe.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Bobby?
Anybody else, Alex?
Oh no, that's
okay.
it. I mean, there's lots of other good ones that I enjoy, but yeah.
How about you, Bobby? Any characters that stood out for you?
The Mustang. The Mustang was the best sidekick of the entire series. That car was just awesome. When it's kind of, he walks outside of the hotel place where all the assassins go meet up, and that car's parked outside with the black suit and his outfit and everything. That is on my wish list, that car, one day when I can get rid of my Mini.
Does it survive John Wick 3 though? I don't think it does it?
It gets taken away by
probably not.
Aurelio, who's the mechanic.
So on the high table,
and then it gets taken away to be fixed, but we don't see it again. It might be.
I imagine
back for 4, baby.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll speculate on that later on, shall we?
Yeah.
We've mentioned a few characters. I do like Ms. Perkins, who when you first see her, she's the female character who comes into his room, and you kind of think initially that they have a history and that there's going to be a love interest, strand, and yes, Bobby, I recognise that action, yes, and all the rest. And but what I like about it is it kind of subverts that expectation, because she then tries to kill him. And she's quite quite an interesting character, because she pops up now and then, and again you get the feeling, just like John Wick, that they all kind of have this kind of superpower of robustness that can survive all these knocks and hits. Played by Adrienne Palicki, who was also in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Thank you for that, Bob. Bobby's simulating lots of bedroom scenes with a plastic Kenobi. Is that Kenobi? And Ray?
I've got Ray from Star Wars as Adrian Palicki's character, and I've got Thor from...
He's got a beard, I suppose.
Endgame. I've got Endgame Thor as John Wick, because he's got a beard. I had a choice of Aquaman and also Steve Rogers with a beard as well. But Aquaman's busy keeping Baby Yoda company, and Steve Rogers is doing something really weird with Iron Man
you guys following all this?
over there.
You are? Okay. Thank you for that, Bobby.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
moving swiftly on.
When
Now,
we start doing the YouTube version of Play Pause Turn.
you can then see what he's doing. Well, we're gonna focus a bit on Bobby next because, as you probably know from Bobby's podcast, he knows a lot about suits, and we'd like to have a chat about costume design here. Now, there's one particularly iconic suit in this film. Bobby, give us your thoughts on this, on the dress.
So there's a raging debate in my industry. Hello, my name is Bobby. I'm also the host of Tailoring Talk with Roberto Revilla, and I am a tailor. There's a raging debate in my industry about whether James Bond is still the best dressed fictional character or whether John Wick has usurped him. I'm firmly in the John Wick camp because I just think he looks absolutely on point. I think maybe James Bond has... Well, it depends, because with James Bond you have like six... Yeah, but, so you could argue that in his social time James Bond is very well dressed, and John Wick doesn't seem to have much time for socialising and stuff. But then, you know, he would probably just go and wear a black suit anyway, because it's easier. But yeah... you know, suits are great. The lapels and so on got a little bit more exaggerated by the time we got to number 2. But, you know, I think the choice of what the costume designer went for was absolutely spot on. And again, I've got it on I have a little list of outfits I need to make for myself. And Ray Donovan, if you've not seen that show with Liev Schreiber, you have to. It's 6 seasons of awesomeness, and I know that I've said it before on this podcast and our previous one. Stroke John Wick. So I have for this winter a bunch of John Wick inspired suits outfits that I'll be actually making for myself as well.
Nice.
But they're very, you know, the tailoring is done in such a way that you could believe that he could do all the things that he does, the CQC stuff, and you know, all the fighting and getting thrown around and throwing people around and everything. I mean, in actual reality, they probably had 1 or 2 or maybe 3 or 4 actual suits that were tailored perfectly for him, but then they probably had like another 30 or 40 suits that had different variations that if they were on him they would not look as good as they do when we see him in scenes.
A bit more
where
lycra involved in some of those suits. They stretch as he's more jumping around, do you think?
Yeah, either lycra or they would just put more. I mean, Amy would probably be able to jump in on this as well, but they'd probably put more room in the armholes when he needs to do a lot of throwing people around. I'm gesticulating, listeners, by the way. And probably they would need to deepen the rise a little bit in the trousers and put a little bit more room in the thighs for things where he's jumping over stuff or kicking people. But yeah, I mean, I would love to be involved in designing and making suits for movies like this. That would just be a dream.
Question
job
is though,
for me.
Bobby,
rather than
could you
the
get a
job that I
supplier to provide you with bulletproof material for his bulletproof suit? Because I think that's so cool to have that suit that looks like a normal suit and flaps about like, but is actually bulletproof.
We can get Kevlar, and there are various levels of Kevlar that have got various levels of bullet reflectiveness.
Resistance.
So it's possible. Yeah, resistance. But, you know, spoiler alert, I don't think they were really using real bullets in that film, John.
But it's a cool idea.
I'm sorry. This is like telling a kid that Father Christmas doesn't exist.
Which of course he does.
They don't use real bullets.
Although if John Wick came to deliver your presents, that would be cool as well. To be fair. So let's look at the visual style of this film, and I think this is one of the things that really, really makes these films stand out is its visual style. Give me your thoughts, Amy, about the cinematography.
There's a lot of. It's more about the sets I tend to notice rather than cinematography. But I love that they didn't fall into the trap of constantly moving cameras. They were always focused on the action, because actually there was so much movement going on, you couldn't afford to distract people by moving the cameras too much. I think that's particularly rife in the third film, when you've got the dogs. Yeah. The dogs in on the attack. I love that. Was fantastic, because they wanted to get a nice wide shot so you could see the ferocity with which these dogs, whichever part was CGI or actual dog, I'm not sure, but the way they leapt through and grabbed people, and sometimes the camera would follow them through, so you could just get an idea of the speed. And I thought that was really effective.
Alex?
I think for me it was how they painted some of the cities, so how they were lit. I mean, they look lovely on my TV, so I was very, very happy. But it just it kind of, it was all real, but it kind of just made everything pop a bit more. I don't know how to explain it, but they accented the highlights and lowlights, so it gave us lots of sort of shadows and stuff. And the use of colour was really, really nice. Like is it the red circle? I think that was one of the
locations.
Locations, yeah. And so it's things like that where, they use colour, but they use it sparingly. But it really has effect.
It's almost like they're drawing a comic book style in their film. The sort of the high contrast colours and the more simplified look to it, but more impactful.
That reminds me of one of the scenes, I think it's in the first or second film, it's something to the nightclub or a posh place that we're at, and all the baddies at that point, you could spot them a mile off, because they were the ones that were all wearing red. Now, I don't know if that's a little nod to Star Trek or not, but you could spot the baddies because they were wearing red shirts or a red tie, but everyone else seemed to be black, white and silver. So that, again, it seemed to echo that comic book style, just like Alex was saying. And also, it was kind of fun, because I was sitting there going, well, he's dead, he's going to die, and they're going to die and all.
Again, you could say that's like a video game, couldn't you, as well?
Very much.
The game helps you sort of identify the baddies in each scene. How about you, Bobby? Any thoughts on this visual style?
I mean, I like all this dark, gritty stuff, but I really love the way that the dark is punched by these, red and blue neon kind of lights going on in the club sequences and certain elements of the cities and so on. And I agree with Amy. The other thing that I really like, the thing that you see too much in Hollywood movies these days, is they're so over-edited, the fight scenes. And maybe that's partly because most other actors are using stunt doubles for the majority of those fight sequences, but you notice with superstars like Keanu Reeves, who's done most of his own stunts in these movies, and Tom Cruise is another example. I mean that guy's pushing 60 now, if he's not 60 already, and he's still headlining one of the biggest action franchises that's still going now. Yeah, but he's doing all his own stunts, and so there's no need for them to go through that heavy editing of fight sequences, and I really hate it when that happens. It happens in some of the Marvel movies as well. So the fact that the camera is actually able to just take a little step back and show us what's going on, and as the Hansford said, the dog sequence was a perfect example of that. Apparently, Halle Berry had a big hand in the training of those animals. Yeah, she did. I don't know if obviously it's something she does in her spare time.
That's cool. Her character Sophia.
Yeah.
Well,
so yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, the two things, the cinematography and the set design, just play perfectly together through these movies, and yeah, just love it. Nobody kind of had that.
Yeah,
sort
it's
of feel
interesting
to it
that you all say how it's they stay with this sort of the single wider shots. The cinematographer is a guy called Jonathan Seeler, and he used anamorphic lenses for this. So if you don't know what an anamorphic lens is, what it does is you're working with 35mm film, and if you film in widescreen, what happens is, filming with a standard circular lens, you get the letterbox shot, and it's very thin, and you get lots of black bars above and below. With anamorphic, what it does is the lens is more like a sphere shape, sorry, a oblate, so it's a slightly stretched lens. I'm using my hands here to show the host here, but you can't see this. But what it does do then is it smooshes the shot across the entire 35mm frame, and then what you have to do in post is re-stretch it out wider, but then you get a fuller frame, but it also gives you a wider image and a more expansive shot. So using anamorphic for filming, especially the fight scenes and the visuals, is a really good choice for this sort of film. And it'd be interesting to see if you're thinking about this now, seeing what how other films do it in a similar style. So I really enjoy the way it looked, and I'm with you, Bobby. The whole sort of neo noir style, this black with lots of darks but lights, the neon lights and the lighting effects, brilliant. And I think it does a really good job then of sort of singling out the characters, even when there are busy scenes. As like Amy mentioned, with the colour of the baddies, it's a very clever way of vignetting your characters as well, using those colours. I think it's I don't know if they've won any awards. We'd have to check that if they won any awards for cinematography. Alex, have a look.
Oh, I'll have a look.
So whilst Alex looks at that, I think we should now start having a little bit of a speculation on what comes next. Now, there's going to be a new film, John Wick 4, but there's also a mini-series called The Continental. I've had more thoughts about the next film, and I'm sure Alex and Amy, who've just seen the third film, have got some thoughts as well. I have some views, and I've trawled the Reddits, and I've looked online to see other views as well. I obviously, at the end of 3, and again, we didn't mention at the top of this podcast that this is obviously a spoiler-filled podcast, but I'm hoping people realise that when they listen to this. I think John Wick, it's going to be a revenge film, the final film. I mean, all the films are revenge films, really, but this one's going to be the pinnacle, and I'm pretty sure this will be the last one. I think John Wick's going to go and try and take out the High Table and the Elder. We got a little hint at what the Elder was when John Wick was over in the desert, and we met this guy in his sort of harem, his tent. And he had to chop his finger off to show his commitment to the mission. Great scene. I think, after John Wick falls off the roof, he's just been shot by Winston, isn't he? And falls off the roof. I think there's going to be a bit of time between him falling off the roof and the beginning of his plan of action. I think there's going to be a gap in time for that. Even though this is the shortest time between films have been filmed, isn't it? 3 and 4, that is the smallest gap. I think there's going to be a long time for him to plan his attack on the High Table. I don't think Winston betrayed John. I think he knew about his bulletproof suit because he could have aimed at his head. So I think it was a way of saving John Wick and also saving face in front of the High Table. But I think Winston will then be Wick's inside man at the High Table. And I think there's going to be some nice scenes of what is Winston loyal to the High Table? Is he loyal to Wick? We're going to get a twist there. Also, Lawrence Fishburne's character, the Bowery King, who is the guy with the pigeons, isn't he? Who's a great character. He was obviously attacked by Zero for helping John. And I think he's going to help him as well. So I think you're going to see probably more. I think there's going to be an opportunity here for the John Wick production team to have some really class established old actors to be members of the High Table. At some point they're going to churn out Helen Mirren at some point, aren't they? I'm hoping. Help me out here, Amy.
What action will she do this time?
Help me out here. Now, I've forgotten. It's the lady who was in the Addams Family film, who played Angelica Houston. That's it.
Oh, she's
I thought
great.
she was fantastic in
she
this,
played the director.
and that scene was really interesting when you suddenly see this side of John Wick as being sort of what's it called, the Baba Yu, isn't it? The Baba Yaga. That's it. Yeah, and the whole sort of the marker, I think that was really interesting. I think she's got to come back in some respect for this as well. Any other thoughts, boys and girls?
Oh, right. So, yeah, I totally agree. I think they are going to go after the High Table in John Wick 4. I think, I think he must have known that the rules were that he was going to be double-crossed. But the thing that makes me question that is just his look when he looked at Winston. And, what are you doing, Winston? And I think part of me thinks that he genuinely just doesn't think ahead. He's literally just thinking about, right, I've finished killing everyone now. What's this that you're just turning things around so that you can have the hotel back? I understand.
I think that, Alex, the Continental is the most important thing to Winston. And I think that tension will be also evident in the fourth film. And we've got to see what happens, haven't we, really? Like whether he sides at the high table or not still.
Yeah, I think he's I think he's going to have to sit with the high table, and then it's going to be a question for John to go for Winston and see where that leads. But yeah, so no, it's quite interesting. There was supposed to be a John Wick 5 as well.
Oh, right.
It was meant to be filmed at the same time as John Wick 4, but they then changed their mind after COVID. So they've said it's penciled, but they haven't got a date for it yet. So I think there's plenty of backstory that they want to fill out. The question is whether they do that through this or whether they do that through the TV series that they've got in mind. And obviously the Continental is going to be such an interesting one. I think that they could, that's going to be a 3-part miniseries.
Is that going to focus on John Wick or other characters? Do you know?
No, it's going to just focus on the Continental. So it's not, because it happens. My understanding is it happens about 40 years before John Wick. So it's going to talk about how Winston got his position and what happened. So I think there's a story there that they're going to tell. But yeah, that sounds quite interesting. And the thoughts are that might be released before the film, although I'm not sure if timings are going to work for that. But we'll have to see, because they've only just started filming Chapter 4. So part of me thinks unless the TV series is already in the bag, unless it's already ready, I think timings might not quite work out. But
do we know who's going to be showing that series? Is it going to be a Netflix?
At the moment, I think it was going to be on Stars, which
is Disney.
I don't know what that's. Yeah, so.
Okay, that's interesting.
So it may come to Disney.
Bobby or Amy, have you got any thoughts about these next IPs coming up? Any thoughts, any speculation?
Well, I think I've got a theory, not about the miniseries, which I'm very excited to hear about, and we will hopefully be watching, because, more Ian McShane. But my theory on John Wick 4, you're not going to like it, and it goes along the idea of, this is why we can't have nice things. I'm afraid I think that the dog is going to be killed. And he will be very upset about that, because as we've seen, he doesn't do well with doggy death. And that will be a way of him saying, this is why I can't have nice things. I can't ever leave this world. So instead, I'm going to become really, really bad and mean and horrible. And then we'll go into John Wick 5 with him then taking over everything.
So you think they're going to extend the franchise forever then, in that respect?
Well, if there is a John Wick 5 penciled in, then I think that's where it will go. But I do think that the dog will die in John Wick 4, and it will be when the dog dies. I mean, there's going to be something emotional. It's one of those things like, in a film where someone kisses someone and says, I love you. You're like, well, they're dead, aren't they? So I think he will give the dog a name.
And then kiss it.
And then that's it, dog done.
Do you not think...
Don't name the dog.
Do you not think, Amy, that there'll be more emotional catharsis if Winston gets killed?
Oh, you can't touch Winston. No, thank you.
But do you think do you not think that will be an interesting storyline, though?
I think it would be an interesting storyline. I haven't thought about it because I'm just trying to think about what they can do and what they've carried on through. And there's been a dog storyline all the way through. And I'm very simplistic. I don't look at the big things. I look at the little insignificant things. So, yeah, that's what I think is going to happen.
Any thoughts, Bobby?
No. For once, you'll be surprised. But I don't want to know what happens in John Wick 4 until I sit down in the cinema and it starts. I just love being along for the ride of these films. I didn't actually see a trailer for the first. I actually didn't see a trailer for any of them before I saw them. For me, it was John Wick, that fight choreography team, Keanu Reeves, black suit. That was enough for me. So, yeah, I'm not speculating on number 4. I haven't thought about what number 4 is going to do. I kind of zoned out when you guys were talking about it just now. I will skip forward when I re-listen to this podcast once it's edited and up and ready for everybody to enjoy. I don't want to know. La 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 la.
I've got one more. Don't listen, Bobby, but there's also going to be a spin-off film.
What? A spin-off that's not John Wick? Is it?
Huh?
It's all about Winston. Yeah.
It's not about Winston. No, it's not. It's going to be called Ballerina, and it's going to involve a young woman who was raised to be an assassin who seeks revenge on the hitman that killed her family.
This sounds like Black Widow.
Ooh.
Yeah, but that did well enough, didn't it? So, yeah. So they're reportedly looking to have Chloe Grace Moretz, who's from lots of stuff actually.
That, I think.
Yeah, so they're going to get her apparently.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, so that's one that's in the pipeline, but that could be
as long as they don't
time.
sort of Star Warsify John Wick and completely milk this cow. I think there needs to be finality to this, and I think either John Wick dies or the Continental explodes or something. But I think there needs to be an end, and I'm happy for prequels and background. But I think the central story needs to have closure. I don't know, maybe he just retires and lives in a nice glass house somewhere with several dogs.
But we can't have nice things.
No, you're right. So I have one more question, but I labelled this one a secret question without any response or question to it. So. Could everyone please put their hands on their heads like this? So I know that you're not tapping on a keyboard to find the answer. Okay, we're going to do a quick round robin here. Can anyone tell me, please, what the value of one gold coin in the John Wick films is? Amy, have a guess.
No.
I'm trying to think of things that they've been exchanged for, and they've been exchanged for a room. So, but that's for a long stay. I'm gonna say $1,000.
Okay, Bobby, how about you?
Safe passage.
Okay, that's interesting. Alex, how about you?
Yeah,
I'd say 10 grand.
Okay, you can put your hands.
$10,000 because it's got to be enough for the danger money.
So, Amy and Bobby were the nearest. So someone somewhere has worked out. It's very hard to work out, but based on the things that are bought and situations, it's somewhere in the region of about $2,000. However, as Bobby says, the gold coin also represents honour, and so the way the economy works is if John Wick gives you a gold coin, it's worth more than maybe zero because of John Wick's value. And so what happens is, as you say, Bobby, the coin is a favour. John Wick gives his coin to someone else. They can then use that coin as a favour for something else, almost like the old barter system. So, yes, you can have multiples of those, but they're worth either a couple of grand or, if it's from certain people, an honourable sort of bartering system or a token for that honour. Or that. But it basically means that the job I'm going to do for you for that gold coin, you're going to be doing it for someone with the highest honour, and that debt will be repaid. And the marker is a similar sort of thing, but the marker is a higher level, with one where they put their finger in the pin, and it's a blood marker. There's no going back on that. But I find that really fascinating. What a wonderful kind of conceit for a film, and the fact that all the fans are kind of speculating as well. Okay, now I think. I think we have. I'm going to give you all three of you a gold coin for this great discussion, and I think we have. Amy's clapping herself as well. Bobby's put his hands up. You just got 1 point, Bobby. Yes.
Sorry. Why is there blood on this gold coin that you've given me?
Maybe to convince you to come back to the next podcast. I don't know. Perhaps.
Okay.
Bit sus.
We will find a suitable PS5 game to play together online, and I will challenge you
we'll do
to
that.
a duel to the death.
Yeah, okay. I'm a little bit scared now. I just won't let you come walk behind me. That's all. what you're like with your knives. Now,
That's it.
how can you find us? Well, I'm going to start off with Bobby's Twitter handle, because he's not been around for a while. He's at It's Bobby Revilla, and you'll see lots of tweets about his podcast there as well, the Tailoring Talk with Robert Revilla. Hope I said that correctly. You can find Alex at Alex Hansford. You can find Amy at Wakey, and you can find me at John PR Evans. Our Twitter handle for the show is at PlayPauseTurn, and you can go to our website if you like at playpauseturn.show. This has been Play Pause Turn, and thank you for listening.